supposed to give you a 15-minute insight or thought about Mashiach. So here's what I want to share in the light of Mashiach, in the context of the discussion on Beis Mashiach, in the Inyan of Mashiach. We talk a lot about the Rambam's Mashiach. We koch very much on the Rambam's Mashiach. And the reason we do that is because the Rebbe koch so much of the Rambam's Mashiach. The Rambam's Mashiach, of course, is the Mashiach in Halacha, and Torah and Yiddishkeit follows Halacha. So the Rambam's Mashiach is from a practical angle the most important one for us to discuss. And of course, as you know, the Rambam's Mashiach is not about miracles, it's not about a change of nature. It's about Torah and mitzvahs, or the famous lashon that the Rebbe uses in the Sicha from Chelik Ches in Balak, Shleimus HaTorah VaMitzvah, which means in practical terms the following. Mashiach means that if this world belongs to God, He has to show Himself to be its master. If the Eibishter created the world and He controls the world should go as He wants. Mashiach, in a sentence, is a world governed by what the Eibishter wants. Which means that people live, they're born, they die, they grow up, they raise children, and they follow the Torah. The Yidden follow their 613 mitzvahs, and the Goyim Lahavdil follow their Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Ne'ach. That's what Mashiach is. Now, of course, the argument is, this is even in the Rambam, that if and when people follow the Torah, so automatically the world becomes a better place simply by people's behavior. There's no theft, there's no deception, there's no poverty. So the world becomes a better place, and as the world becomes a better place and people are able to live better lives, they're able to become more ruchnistic, more spiritual, as the Rambam discusses at length in the Laws of Tshuva, chapter 9, Perek Tes, that the Yehudim Gashmim, the physical rewards that are described in Torah, are not the schar. The schar is elam haba, but the Yehudim Gashmim put us in a position, which of course is going to happen after Mashiach comes, where we're able to be pnuyim b'teira b'chachmasa, we're free to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, and this is true again, not only of Yidden, but also lahadl of all of mankind. In the kiyum of Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Ne'ach, when you live in a better world, you're able to serve Hashem better, as the Rambam writes in the beginning of Perek Daled of Hilchas Deis. As you know, I'm sure that there's a big machlokes amongst Balei Musar. If having a good Gashmiistic life interferes with Torah Aveda, or it supports Torah Aveda, so there is a hashkafa that says, Tuk for the gufa choshu the nishmasa, tuk for the nishmasa choshu the gufa, which means that if a person wants to be very spiritual, he has to be materially deprived. But the Rambam disagrees with this shita. The Rambam says that for a person to be healthy and safe and secure and have what they need, helps them serve the Eibishter. And of course the Baal Shem Tov obviously goes in this derech, because he holds Ozev Tazev Imei, that the guf, even though it's Seinacha, you're not allowed to destroy it, you have to work with it. So La'asad Lavi, life is going to be materially good, and the material goodness of the life we're going to have is going to create opportunity to be pnoyim b'teira b'chachmasa, and we're going to reach very high levels in edelkeit, and in bidat amidus, and in deis nachenis, and in yedias Hashem, kedei sheyizku l'chayah elam haba, that we should merit to have elam haba. And this is true of Yidden, and it's true also of Goyim. This is basically the position of the Rambam. Now, one more detail I want to add on the Rambam, which is the idea of Tchias HaMesim. The Rambam holds that Tchias HaMesim is a part of Yemei Mashiach, not Olam Haba. So everything that the Rambam is saying, that the Yehudim Gashmim, the physical promises, give us opportunity to be pnuyim b'teira b'chachmasa, to learn and to daven and to serve Hashem better, to be mevarer amidus and to develop deis nechenes and to be a deis Hashem k'fikei ha'adam. Kedei sheyizku l'chayah elam haba will apply even to those people who had lived and died, that they have Tchias HaMesim in Yemei Mashiach. And even though during the second kuf of Yemei Mashiach there's going to be Nisim, and maybe even Shinim in Hagesh Oleilam, but it's still going to be a world of Bechira Chavshis, of free will. We do not say about Yemei Mashiach, even the second kuf, according to the Rambam. Yamem Shein Bem Chayfetz. So they're also going to be Pnuyim B'Teira B'Chachmasa, and they're going to achieve Midas Tevis and Deus Nechenis and Yasigu Das Beidem Kefikeach Adam Kedei Sheyisku Lachaya Elam Abod. This is basically the picture of Mashiach that the Rambam paints. And this is the picture of Mashiach that we know from the Rebbe Siches that paint the Rambam's painting on what Mashiach is. I want to speak to something else also, I suppose. And that is the Mashiach in Chassidus. Mashiach in Chassidus is Yechida, right? The Rebbe brings it in the Inside Chassidus that it says in Ramaz that there are 5 neshamas klolius, 5 general souls, that David HaMelech is nefesh, Eliyahu is ruach, Moshe is neshama, Adam HaRishon is chaya, and Mashiach Zakenu is Yechida. He's the Yechida klolius. And of course, you know the Chernobyl of art, V'yiskayim Bon Amikshe Kosov and Noch Olav Ruach HaDeshem, that every Jew has a nitzitz of Mashiach, and so on and so forth. So what's Yechida? What is it about Yechida that connects it to Mashiach? What's distinctive about it? What's unique about it? So I just want to share one insight. What's unique about Yechida is that there's no opposition to Yechida. There's no Zel Umazeh in the Madreg of Yechida. In the wording of the Gemara, which the Maimorim bring, Bua de Bua Leslahu. Bua, which means a shadow or a makif, Klipa has, a shade has. But Bua de Bua, a makif of a makif, a shade Klipa does not have. So the explanation is that the Madreg of Chaya, you have Zel Umazeh Kedusha against Klipa, and the Madreg of Yechida, there is no Zel Umazeh. Now, of course, we are, deaf, dumb, and blind. And many of us would add to that sentence, thank God, we're Anoshim Pshutim, we do not know what's happening in the Ilmus Halyenim, we don't understand the Ruchniyizdik's struggles. So we're Tamim Tiyem Hashem Lekecha, we do what we do based on what we're told without trying to find the roots and the causes and the sources for all the things that are going on. But the Mitzuki Eretz, Amudei Yoilam, the Tzadikim, the Rabbeim, the Nesiim, they know what's going on in the Ilmus Halyenim. And they understand very acutely, very strongly, the Zel Umazah Salakim. And throughout history, the Gedali Yisrael, for lack of words, picked their battles. Of us Megetzach, why didn't they koch in Mashiach 1,000 years ago and 1,500 years ago? V'chulu, they were in Golos. It's not because they lacked an emunah in Mashiach. It's because they appreciated the time they were in. And it was not yet the time. Even the Rebbe Rashab in the Teres Sholem, when he brings the famous story with Napoleon, he writes that the Polish Rebbes, and in one of the Rebbe's letters, the Rebbe writes, Yesh Emim Shoya Magid Mikoznitz. The Koznitz of Magid was the Alter Rebbe's Bad Plukta, about this question of whether Russia should win the war, in which case it'll be better for Yidden Beruchnius, but it'll be harder for Yidden for Gashmias. Or Bonaparte, as the Alter Rebbe called him. The Alter Rebbe didn't call him Napoleon, the Alter Rebbe called him Bonaparte. Will win the war, in which case it'll be better for Yidden Begashmias and worse for Yidden Beruchnius. And parenthetically, there's a long letter from the Mittler Rebbe written to the Mesha Meisels describing the events of those months when the Alter Rebbe was running from Bonaparte, from Napoleon. And the Mittler Rebbe writes that the Alter Rebbe described this man not as a Democrat, but as a bloodlustful person. The Alter Rebbe, you read the description, it sounds literally the way you and I would describe Hitler. That his whole shtick of being a nice guy and trying to help people and liberalize the world, this was really not who he was. He really was a man of war and conquest, and he didn't mind killing people to entertain himself with the games of international war. But putting that aside, the Rebbe Rashab writes in Teres Sholem that the Machlokes was really when the Mashiach is coming then. They felt that they could bring Mashiach at that time through the exercise of Tzadi B'Menasa Yichya, Al Tikka Yichya Eli Yechaye, and the Alter Rebbe knew Bebirur that noch der kommen the Zeit. The Alter Rebbe says Teres Sholem. The Alter Rebbe knew for sure it's not the time of Mashiach, and if it's not yet the time of Mashiach, Bonaparte cannot win because it will bring a churm. And that's why he davened that that the Russians should win. And throughout history, the Tzadikim, who really know what's going on, are Isaac and Birudim. And the Birudim happen on every level. Nefesh against Nefesh, Ruach against Ruach, Neshama against Neshama, and Chaya against Chaya. We don't understand all of this. We obviously do not appreciate how these things play out historically. And we certainly don't appreciate how we see these victories in ourselves, because the way we look at ourselves, we feel like we have all the chassidus of the generations before plus more. But it's actually not that way, because much of the bidud has been accomplished, or all of the bidud has been accomplished. So we're smaller people and we have nisyonis. But the reality of klipa, of evil in the world as an entity, the tzadikim over the course of the ages, through their avodah and through the hadracha that they gave the people that that were attached to them, they were mavad at all of these inyanim. And the last bidud is Mashiach. But the bidud of Mashiach is a bit of a different kind of a bidud than the other kind of bidudim. Ubehegdim. Let me preface first by saying this. Before you go to Yechida, let's talk about Chaya. There's a very big difference between the Machon of Nefesh B'Nefesh and Ruach B'Ruach and Neshama B'Neshama, Naran and Chaya. And the difference is because Nefesh is in the Guf. So the Nefesh of the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh and Nefesh Hamis are fighting over the same space. In the language of Tanya Perik Tes, Ir Ktana Zu Guf. And the same is true Ruach, that the Ruach is Midas, and the Midas of the Nefesh Elokis want to excite you in one direction. The Midas of the Nefesh Hamis want to excite you in a different direction. And they meet in the heart. So they're fighting over a space. And the same is true in Neshama B'Neshama. The Seichel of Nefesh Elokis, which has Bittul. And the Seichel of Nefesh Hamis, which has Yeshus. But they're both Seichel. Are trying to take over the space of the Moyach of the person. Each wants that its derech, its shita, its hashkafa should dominate the space of the person's mind, and they're fighting over a space. And because they're fighting over a space, the fight is direct. It's a bida b'derech slapshus. They fight like two wrestlers. But Chaya is different. Even though the Eivisha created Chaya of Kedusha and Chaya of L'Umazeh, it's hard to define what it is. Because it's Poshet Chutzpah, it's Amalek. It's fighting for a cause that's not going to get you any good, but it'll destroy somebody else's good. That's I don't know how else to explain it. There's no place in the Guf that represents Chaya. So they don't fight directly. They don't have the direct conflict. They both make noise. And they make noise on a level which is higher than Seichel. And they never ever confront each other directly. But the more a person listens to one, the less he listens to the other. Or to say it in different words, on the Madreg of Chaya, the inyanim that you have from your neshama on the Madreg of Chaya can never be changed. If you have a moon on the Madreg of Chaya, it can never be changed. If you have simcha on the Madreg of Chaya, it can never be taken away from you. If you have Abbas Yisrael, the Madreg of Chaya, it can never be taken away from you. But it could be forgotten. It can become verschlafen. It can become distracted. Because the Chaya of Liyumazeh will take you in a different direction. In the Madregas of Naran, the Seich of Nefesh Habahamis can actually cancel the Seich of Nefesh Elokis. And the same is true in Midas, and the same is true in Hidah, in Bittul. But on the Madrega of Chaya, one cannot defeat the other, destroy the other. They can only make the other be forgotten as it relates to the Guf. That if a person pays attention to the Chaya of Nefesh Elokis, he doesn't hear the Chaya of Nefesh Habahamis. And the more he allows the Chaya of the Nefesh Habahamis to emerge, the Chaya of Nefesh Elokis, all your beliefs are the same. Every ashkafa you had from your Nefesh Elokis and all of the attitudes and priorities and principles that you had from your neshama never go away, but they become quieted. They lose their rotzen. They don't have any energy, and they're not able to fight, and so forth and so on. So this is the difference between Aran and Chaya. That's got the Yechida. The reason Mashiach has such a big deal is because there's no liyumas. In other words, Yechida, Mashiach's a person, a boss of Adam, who comes into this world and brings with him a keich eliki that's higher than other medicine, that's never been in the world before. And this keich eliki is so strong. Now we're speaking the Hasidic angle, not the halachic angle. Is so powerful that nobody stands up to him. Nothing stands up to him. Now, it doesn't mean that no one's going to come out against him. In my imaginings, Mashiach is going to come and the United Nations is going to condemn him like 5 times in the first week and 10 times in the second week. And then members of the United Nations are going to start to die, so they're going to forget to come to the votes. But it's not going to have any koyach. There's going to be opposition to Mashiach, but it's going to be a koyla l'nidav. It's not going to be a real thing that has to be feared and reckoned with and dealt with. V'ra'isa b'chochmasecha, or v'asisa b'chochmasecha. It's going to be nothing. So the struggle of Mashiach is different than the other struggles. The struggle is not once Mashiach comes, it's the struggle for Mashiach to come. And this, of course, explains why the Inyan, what Rebbe called 30 years ago now, Kabbalah's name Mashiach Tzedkeinu B'Peil Mamish, is such a big deal. The Rebbe said in the summer of Nanalef, and the Rebbe then explained, of course, that as individual people, there's plenty of birur to do, but the birur needed, in other words, the things in the world that truly oppose Kedusha, that have a real power, have been eliminated. There's still klipa in the world. A lot of people would argue there's more klipa in the world now than ever. But, according to what the Rebbe is saying, if Kedusha would push back, you would see that it has no teikif. It has no chayas. It's weakness. It's Yetzer Hara. It's noch gebenzech. It's this. Whatever's easier, I want. Whatever is quicker, I want. Whatever gives me more pleasure, I want. But if you stand up to it, so when it's a real klipa, it has a koyach. It fights. And when the klipa has been nisbared, it falls. You just need to stand up to it. But the inyan of Kabbalah's Mashiach Tzedkeinu, which is so long in coming, which is not happening l'cha'oira b'his galus. We don't see the Kabbalah's Mashiach Tzedkeinu b'Peil Mamish. Is not about the milchama between Teva and Ra, because Yechida has no le'uma. So it's about bringing Mashiach into the world, not so much about the fight between Teva and Ra in the world. And you could imagine what kind of effort it must take if you consider the fact that there's no Zel Yumazeh against Yechida. And this is what you have in the Maimorim, which is brought from Zohar and from Tanakh, that there's something called Chevlei Mashiach, the Chevlei Leida of Mashiach, and parenthetically the Rebbe said that the Holocaust is a Chevlei Leida of Mashiach. The Rebbe never said that the Holocaust is Gog Magog, but the Friedrich Rebbe said that the Holocaust is the Chevlei Leida of Mashiach. And they bring in the Svarim, it says in the middle of Rebbe in Sharei Amunah, I think, that there's an ayol, a deer, that's called an oifer, Aleph Peiresh, Aleph Vav Peiresh. He needs the Emed Akas Lena Mashkiach. He they medayed Litzil oifer ha'ayolim, that the Rachmat Tsar, that the Rechem, that the passageway through which the babies have to be born is not big enough for the babies to be born. And there's Gefelech Tzari of Chevle Leida. And there's a special scorpion, a darkoin, which the Eibishter gave a special sgula, that it stings the mother, the oifer, and it relaxes the muscles, and the baby is able to be born. And this is a mashal for the Chevle Leida Mashiach. That when it comes to Mashiach, it's not about a fight of Teva and Ra, it's simply about the inyan of Kabbalah's name Mashiach Tzedkeinu, and he has to be brought into the world against the fact that the world is not able to hold him. And that's called the Chevle Leida of Mashiach. Or to come at it from a different angle, like it says in the Rebbe in Mini Melech, based on the Gemara, that just like David HaMelech is a bar nafla, Mashiach is also a bar nafla. The Melech is supposed to die in birth, because the neshama like David HaMelech has no place in this world, and the fancy is so much bittul can't exist, and that's why he has to take years from Adam Rishon, from Avraham, from Yankov, from Yosef. And what's Lashon HaPasuk? Chayim Shol Machon Satalei Yomim Satalei something Oirech Yomim. This Apostle Gemara says this is Mashiach asking for years. It's the same principle, because the neshama of Mashiach is so powerful, and the neshama of Mashiach is so singular that b'derech hateva such a neshama cannot exist in this world. And this is the avodah of Kabbalah's name Mashiach Tzedkeinu, to push this through. And of course, the important thing is Hamaisahu Ha'ikir, a practical side to all of this. And the Rebbe has given us many instructions about how this should be done, including the idea of demanding Mashiach Tzedkeinu. Demanding Mashiach. I spoke once when we had that 24-hour day, that the Rebbe spoke 4 things that we can do to bring Mashiach. 4 examples, 4 inyanim. Number one, to demand Mashiach, to be Teveya Mashiach. Mashiach's not going to come if not with Teveya. Number two, that la'olam yira adam atzmei shakal v'chol ha'olam kulei shakal also ma'isa achas diber achas machshava achas hechliya asa atzmei v'chol ha'olam kulei kas chus mei v'lei lehem b'yeshua v'atzala, that the person has to appreciate that Mashiach comes from one action. Number three, what the Rebbe spoke in Pashas Kisei Tavshin Memches, that the Rebbe said b'chunini no bezois, that we tried everything and we never tried the idea of simcha b'taharasa as a means of bringing Mashiach. And number four, the Inyan of Limud, Inyan Yigul Mashiach. We want Mashiach now.